Ready? Okay. Okay, thank you very much, and welcome to today's panel discussion on Youth Voices for Climate Action at the World Humanitarian Forum at COP26. So my name's Rebecca, and I work at the Overseas Development Institute, and I head up the Global Risk team there, and I'm really honoured to be invited here today to host today's panel with our esteemed speakers. Welcome. So the theme of the forum actually is people, planet, prosperity, peace and partnerships. So kind of all really key important themes there. So I'm really excited today to be joined by some of our youth leaders and influencers, and I think have been out today already on the march doing the. You were there, weren't you, this morning? I think you just saying right, spreading the love right at the front of the stage. And Kehkashan as well, you too. So what I want to do actually is we have about 45 minutes, I think, for our chat this afternoon. And I want to focus us a little bit on translating voices into action. So I'm going to ask you a few questions about how do we really get to the nub of action needed for a sustainable future. So what I would really like to invite you guys to do actually is, could you just briefly introduce yourselves, but also when you're doing that, just give the audience here and the audience at home a sense of what's brought you to COP26 and how did you come on this journey?
Sure. So, hi everyone. My name is Kehkashan. I'm a member of the World Humanitarian Forum Youth Council. I'm also a United Nations human rights champion and founder president of Green Hope Foundation, which is a global social innovation enterprise working across 25 countries to engage and empower young people, women, vulnerable communities in the sustainable development process, and really working on the intersections of our world's greatest challenges to, from climate action, climate justice, to ensuring gender equality, to health equality, peace, and nuclear disarmament. So we work across the entire sustainable development spectrum because we recognize the importance of localizing solutions and understanding local challenges. And what has brought me to COP, I think, that is what I always advocate for. This is my fourth COP, and my first COP was back in 2012 when I was 12 years old. And that was when I just started Green Hope Foundation, and I wanted to see how best I could ensure that we could bridge the gap between the top-down and bottom-up processes. And then I realized that UNFCCC did not allow children under the age of 18 to be a part of the processes. And that was when I started really putting forward the ground level work that young people are doing all around the world and practicing what I preached to really show people that young people have the power to change the world. And when I attended my third COP when I was 17, they finally changed that rule. So now I'm just here to ensure climate justice for all, to really leave no one behind.
Excellent. Thank you so much. AY, how about you?
Yeah, who am I? My name's AY Young, and I'm founder of something called the Battery Tour, and I'm also one of the 17 goals, right? United Nations Young Leaders for the SDGs. And, I'll say what's even keeping me here, at COP longer than even what I thought was the fact that, it was just what Nick's on the side of my left hand, just like a day ago that I found out I was the only young leader with access to the blue room, the blue zone, right? So it's like, dude, for the other 16 young leaders, and this is designated by Amina Mohammed and, Secretary General Antonio Guterres. So it's like, dude, I feel like I've got to be, at least some kind of example for the rest of our envoys, right? Like Joe Athman, right? And hopefully, bridge and help be an example to bring the world together, because I think everyone's an outlet, and I think if we can all plug into each other, I think we can power change. So, I guess that's why I'm here, right?
And I think, you also come from a music, the entertainment industry background. Is that right as well?
Yeah.
So you're bringing a different flavour to this. Is that you're bringing the kind of artistic kind of flavour too, yeah?
I mean, definitely to it. Yeah, I mean, I'm proud of the battery tour. It's like, okay, yeah, I got off the X Factor TV show in like 2012, and I figured out, how to store energy in batteries. That's why it's called the battery tour, right? But it's not just, I don't just like bring music and entertainment, in the sense of about climate or, a message, but we use the battery tour as like an impact engine. So, after every show, I mean, if we raise enough money, we're sending, one solar box to, one person, one village, around the world. Like the purpose of the battery tour is to get the world plugged in. To use music as a vehicle to like make an impact, So that's what I've been doing, is literally getting the world access to energy, which is goal 7. That's why I'm a young leader. And yeah, I'm happy to be here to, power change with people.
Excellent. Great. So you guys are both really sort of working at the grassroots level and really focused on sort of individual action within the community. I think the audience would be a bit annoyed though if I didn't ask you a little bit about your take on the COP so far. So it's like day 5 of the COP. We've had quite a number of pledges. We've had 105 world leaders, sign up to the global methane pledge. We've had the coal shift from coal, but a couple of kind of key countries absent from that. Also commitment on deforestation, but again we're seeing some countries kind of rolling back on that. Can I just ask for your sort of take so far? What are your thoughts on what's been pledged and what needs to happen?
Yeah, what needs to happen is implementation after COP26. I think there's so much of focus on what is going on at COP and the actions at COP that we're kind of forgetting about the implementation process that must happen post COP26. But I think that we have made good progress compared to where we were before. And I think we are really at this unique moment in history because we are faced with the pandemic, and that has, I think, really spurred world leaders and governments to really ensure that their policies are implemented at the ground level. And I think the targets and the ambitious commitments that have been made kind of do reflect that. Now it's just up to everyone, really, not just the governments, but civil society and private sector as well, to work together to implement those. And I'm from Toronto, Canada, and I think that just my country has made a lot of good targets and encouraged other world leaders and other countries to do the same as well. So from that standpoint, I am feeling pretty good about where we are. Yes, there are countries and major polluters that have not signed on to many of the agreements, but there are a lot of countries that have, and I think it's important to recognize that and recognize those positive milestones and just kind of go from there to implementation at the ground level.
So at the moment then you're sort of quietly optimistic.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm an optimist, and I see that I understand why it's necessary in the work that I do on the ground with the vulnerable communities. And I understand that, the optimism is needed, the hope is needed, because otherwise it's like, what's the point?
And I guess that's why you're the Green Hope Foundation. Yeah.
She's rocking that green,
and being hopeful. Excellent.
Yes.
Anyway, so what's the vibe in the blue zone? What are you seeing in terms of the pledges? What's your take?
The green room is massive, or the blue zone. You mean like the blue zone, right? Sorry, I'm like, the blue zone is like, then there's the green zone, right? Then there's the fringe events. Then there's the march. I was super happy to be at the march, right? I was like, it was crazy. I was talking to Niggas playing role. I was kicking it with Vanessa in the cocktail. He was walking with Greater. It seems to me like there's just so many. You call them bubbles, or I even call silos, honestly. And what I've been doing, of course, with music, with Battery Tour, with Project 17 now as a young leader, which is the project I've launched, I'm trying to break down these silos and build bridges and connect. And I guess because I've been a part of so many, I've just been seeing a disconnect, actually, because of the different, kind of silos that are here at COP. This is my first one, so I don't know how this stuff works. I'm also a guy that used to, perform on the street corner, and sometimes then I see like someone get access to energy. I'm not used to walking through these massive contraptions, and I don't know what's happening. I don't know who's going to get water tomorrow. These are thoughts that I have. Who's getting food? You being ground zero. Who's getting electricity? I don't know. And so the COP's interesting to me.
Yeah, excellent. I think we're just about to be joined by another of our...
What up, girl?
So I think Nick might have to pick up his chair.
Nick is famous right now. No one knows his name. Who's Nick? This guy's referring to this Nick guy. Thanks, bro. Let me move back.
Thank you.
Just passed.
We're just checking.
Yeah,
okay.
Totally, bro.
So, welcome, Nisreen.
Hi.
Hi. Sorry you had a tricky time getting here, but thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I'm really sorry I'm late, but I swear I have a very good excuse. So we had a meeting at St. Petrus Primary School. So they gathered like 100 young kids from primary school to ask questions. And the easiest question I got was, do you think Boris Johnson is a man of his world? So you can imagine how much questions and how intense it was. And why I stayed longer is because we always say that previous generation did not do this, the previous generation did not do that. And I recognize that very soon I will be this previous generation, and I really don't want the next generations to shame us and say they did not do that. And this is why young people right now who are really taking the lead, because we acknowledge what previous generations did not do, and we do not want to repeat the same thing. So talking to young kids, it's very amazing, and it's a very big thing.
Thank you. So can you just, for the audience, just quickly introduce yourself and just quickly tell everybody as well, sort of what's brought you to COP. What's your journey here so far? How did you get here? How did you get to be speaking to those primary school kids this afternoon?
Sure. My name is Nisreen Elsaim. I'm from Sudan, and I'm the chair of the UN Secretary General's Youth Advisory Group on Climate Change. It's a youth advisory group formulated by the Secretary General, Mr. Antonio Guterres. We are 7 representing different areas of the world, but also I'm a junior negotiator with the African group of negotiators, so I'm here representing my country in the negotiations, and this is my 6th COP. Yeah. 6 COP, but in 7 years, because last year we did not have COP. So I have different hats: the civil society, the youth, and the negotiation. And you can imagine how my days looks like.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I just want to actually just bring you in on the previous question, if that's all right, because I think you're sort of well placed to give us your take on it. So we were just saying it's sort of day 5 of the COP, and we've heard quite a lot of pledges, around coal, around methane, around forests, etc. What's your take on that? Are you optimistic? What's your take thus far?
Well, actually, I don't have the privilege of being non-optimistic. I mean, it's a privilege. I mean, we cannot just go to the beach and wait the world to burn. We don't have any other choice but to continue the work we are doing. Whether we are optimistic, not optimistic, it doesn't really matter as long as we keep going and doing the work we are doing, because we don't have any other choice, actually. But regarding the pledges, I have one question for all of the young leaders, world leaders who have pledges in 2060 and 2070, 2050, and even 2030. The question is, can you guarantee as a person that you will be there in 2050 or 60 or 2030 even? If you are not going to be there, then it doesn't make any sense. Why they are not giving pledges where they can say, by the end of my term, I will do X, Y, Z. By the end of the 2nd term, we will have a national plan to do X, Y, and Z. Why are they talking about the future that none of us know if it will be there or not? I mean, if we continued things like this, I'm sure that I will not be existed by 2050. I'm not sure about the others, because it will be very hard to live in a world, because currently, as we're speaking, it's 42 degrees in Sudan. So imagine when the global warming reached 1.5 or even reached 2, it would not be a habitable place. So we cannot talk about the future that we really don't know, where we have today, we have tomorrow, we have the very near time frame that we can actually have actions on, and we are just wasting it.
Yeah, no, thank you. And can I just you're picking up on your point about the future, and also sort of your reference to the primary school children this morning. If we're going to be focusing on net zero transition, actually we need to be net negative, not just net zero. But what type of jobs, what type of work are young people going to be doing in the future? And now what sort of skills do they need to be equipping themselves with, or the support that's needed to enable young people to take part in that, and be not just take part but empower that transition?
Yeah, I think that's a really important question. I think the first thing is, of course, we need education for young people, and particularly education for sustainable development that allows for skills building. And that really differs depending on the region or the community you're in, and depending on the types of climate change-induced disasters that you face. That kind of resilience building is needed. And I think it's really important that young people are also, the power that young people have to bring about change in their own spheres of influence, that is also really important to be recognized, and by young people themselves as well, because right now we've seen the narrative that young people are just being tokenized and stereotyped as strikers and protesters, and just trying to blame everyone else for the world's greatest challenges. But it's kind of taking away from the fact that young people are also bringing about change in their own zones of influence, are doing the ground level work. And that's something that we see every single day at Green Hope Foundation, working in those communities from Suriname to Liberia to Bangladesh, whether that's installing solar streetlights for women's safety in those areas, or regenerating mangrove forests, or providing clean water and sanitation. So there's a lot that can be done, and I think that education for sustainable development, and more importantly, the empathy education that allows young people and people everywhere to recognize someone else's challenges as one's own, I think that is really, really powerful. And that empathy is probably the most important tool that will allow young people to move ahead. And the rest, it depends on the local context, and that kind of just go from there to address it through local solutions.
Yeah, I'll try to make mine short. Plus, you're dope, and you're really dope. I'm happy to be on the panel with y'all. You know what I'm saying? I'm glad Antonio brought you here. I'll say, because for young people, it's like, man, how do you, people ask me, how do you take an action? What do we do, young people? This is what I think. I think change comes from passion, right? But in order to get your passion to take an action, I have this whole thing, everyone in the world is an outlet for change, right? You got to take an action, right? Empower and support change. But before you can know what your passion is, you need to know what your why is. You know what I'm saying? And I think there's a lot of people that are like, well, I want to be an activist, or I want to be an artist. But when you start diving into who I am, right, as a person, maybe you just want a bunch of followers. Or you just want a lot of attention, and you want a lot of attention because maybe your dad didn't give you a lot of attention when you was a kid. So you want attention, because if attention is what you want, then you can post something crazy online and get a bunch of, you can jump out in the car and feel, there's all kinds of ways to get attention. So I think, if you're young, I would say start with your why and who you are, and then you figure out your passion, right? And then you'll be able to say, well, how can I take my passion? You can look at the framework of the 17 goals. That's what I do. That's what I tell people to do with Project 17. And how can I take an action? I think that's the first place to start. With that being said, there's a lot of people like you. I heard you say regeneration. Paul Hawkins, my homie, right, just wrote the regeneration book. I do believe that, I don't really say sustainability anymore. I actually say regeneration, because it's this crazy concept of everyone say, oh, be sustainable, use less water, But what if every decision you make was how can I bring life? Dang! That changes the whole construct. So a regeneration type mindset, you know what I'm saying? That's what I got.
That's important.
Right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's hard to beat this. Yeah, I think net zero is a concept that actually needs a lot of work and a lot of planning, but also a lot of financing. it's not easy to shut the whole industry of the oil and gas. It's a big industry. Cars, engines, companies, I mean, whole economies are based on the fossil fuel. And a lot of people's jobs depends on that. And if you did not actually give them something to replace that, you will be in a big problem. And luckily, we already have the replacement, which is renewable energies. Having more jobs in renewable energy sectors like solar energy, wind energy, is really important because it will give another way of sustaining the lives of the individuals, having a sort of income, but also have a greener and more cleaner world. Okay, there is a big challenge for net zero. A lot of people, when they hear net zero, they talk about electric cars, right? But what about the people who doesn't have roads for cars to walk, or doesn't have electricity to charge the electric cars, or having a car? There's people in this world, having a car is their last problem in this world. So what about these people? If we found a formula that net zero is possible and the perfect answer or the perfect solution for billionaires who can afford and must afford and must buy electric cars instead of, for example, normal cars. And the same formula works for the farmers in Guatemala, for example, who doesn't really care, who doesn't about cars or have roads for cars or have electricity to drive the car. Then this is the formula that we need for the world. But until now, this formula is not there. And that's why we have to raise more voices. Everyone thinks from their own perspective, but this is not going to work because climate change is a global problem. If you solve your own problem, you didn't save your brothers or your neighbors or a country in the same continent you're living in a problem, then your problem is not solved. It's just like COVID. If not everyone is safe, then no one is safe. This is exactly how climate change works.
Thank you. So, many of the young people who are here at the COP, are very engaged in climate issues, in regeneration, in environmental concerns. But there are a lot of young people who, for these issues are not primary in their minds. It might be that they are just focused on earning a living. It might be that they're concerned about other global issues. What would you say to those young people? How do you bring them into this discussions and let them see the relevance of this for their lives?
Yeah, the situation that you just described in our work, we've seen that most prevalent in the Western world, where, it's for many, many years, climate change did not affect the developed world in the same way did the developing world. And because of that, young people and people in general just thought that it's someone else's problem, so why should I do something about it? And that lack of empathy, I think, is a really, really big problem. But now the global north is facing those challenges firsthand. So now people are like, oh, we must do something. But I'd once again go back to the importance of that empathy education. And I'd also like to say that, it's just really, really crucial that we move away from just looking at it from the planetary perspective and also bringing the human perspective, like the emotions there. You can tell someone about the data and 1.5 degrees all you want. And this goes for young people and all climate skeptics, really. But if you give them the true emotional human impact of how climate change is destroying lives, killing people, destroying livelihoods, I think that really helps to allow people to understand what is really going on. It's not just about this number and this data. There's actually more to the numbers and data, and that's the human impact, and my fellow human being is being affected. So, and that is the approach that we use as well. And I think we've been able to bring about that change to really allow young people to understand that, yes, it's might not be directly affecting me, but I must take action because I am a responsible, global, and empathetic citizen of this planet.
Can I just sort of just play devil's advocate a bit on that? So I totally hear you. You speak to the human story, but then what you hear in the media actually is they're saying, right, all these, young climate activists, they're talking about all of these issues, it's all doom and gloom, and actually it's then creating a lot of eco-anxiety. This is a new phrase that we'd not heard before in young people. What do you say to those sort of criticisms?
Yeah, it actually saddens me that this kind of code red for humanity that the IPCC just declared, it's met with that kind of doom and gloom, because honestly, it just should be a call to action for all young people. And what we can do to combat that eco-anxiety and the feeling of hopelessness is give the concrete solutions that are there. And once they're able to see the concrete solutions and see the impact that it's had and the change it's been able to make, then, you understand that, yes, that change is possible, and this is what I can do in my own zone of influence to address this, and then work collaboratively with others to bring about that change at different levels. So yeah, the concrete solutions are really important.
What are some of them? What are some of them? Because I know I'm just asking, because if I was a young person, I just heard you, it's like, okay, concrete solutions. Then what are they?
Oh, absolutely. I'd be happy to talk about that. Absolutely. So they differ from different parts of the world. In Liberia, for instance, we have installed a solar grid that provides and powers education for the local schools there. And through that, we provide climate resilience education to the girls in computer literacy that allows them to gain the necessary skill sets to get green jobs and uplift their community out of poverty. In Suriname, Kiribati, Bali, India, Bangladesh, we have planted over 7,000 mangroves in areas that are affected by the climate change-induced disasters to protect them from those disasters and protect their livelihoods. We work on sustainable farming, so we just installed a solar-powered irrigation system that enables farmers and young farmers to practice climate-smart agriculture. I mentioned earlier a solar-powered mobile library, so that is taking books directly to the doorstep of over 250,000 children all across the world. Those who most of them had to permanently drop out of school due to the pandemic and climate change-induced disasters. So yeah, those are some of the solutions that are there in the urban environments. We've instituted environmental education into curriculums in Canada, in the UAE, in Suriname. So yeah, those are some of the solutions.
I think AY actually raises an important point, though, about the need for the youth to articulate as well some of these concrete actions. So like AY, in the battery tour, that you're doing quite a lot there. What are some of the sort of messages that you can be, examples really, that you can be showing to other young people how they can get involved, beyond beyond sort of the traditional approach of kind of.
Yeah. I mean, with the battery tour, if you've ever seen it, you see a bunch of batteries and solar panels. So I'm already leading by action, because you're looking at an entire concert with shooting Kansas City when we did the launch. It was with 3,000 people. Just did Milan. I don't know, was it right? So you're looking at a concert powered 100%. By renewable energy. So I mean, that's an action. Well, but at the end of the day, when I talk, I think there's a lot of things you can do as a young person, because if I'm just like looking at this thing and I'm like, dude, what do I do, yo? Like, I want to do something. Like we were at the march, it was like 30, 40,000 people, 100,000. That was awesome. Some kids are marching. Like, okay, I'm going to march. I'm going to scream. I got an Instagram and a Twitter. I'm going to do it. I'm a TikTok. I'm going to do it. Maybe I'm going to support, music that's about climate more, right? But there's other, I tell young people, hey, get active in your local community. Localism, donate time to a food kitchen, or, help a local recycling thing. There are actions you can actually take that are regenerative too, right? But I, in terms of me, what I'm doing with the battery tour, I'm leading by example. And I'm also trying to show people I powered up close to 900 concerts with renewable energy. And the battery tour has gotten over 17 countries access to energy. Now, there's a billion people that don't have it, and you're doing a lot of beautiful work with the solar stuff. So, but at least I'm showing people, okay, you can do a concert, right? You can use that music to drive and create and make impact. You know what I'm saying? That's why I said COP is confusing to me, because I'm used to doing a concert, which I've been doing them all over COP, right? And then I'm like on Twitter or Instagram taking a photo like, yo, and there's this kid in Honduras, and they're like plugging in their phone. They don't have to walk 5 miles. You know what I'm saying? So to me, this is weird, because I'm like walking through this like maze, and there's like these huge suns, you know, and it's like miles long. And oh my gosh, it's Leonardo. And I'm seeing all these dope people and companies that like I buy food from, and then I wake up the next day and it's just cop day number 2, and then it's cop day number 3, and I'm like, dude, where's the selfies? You know what I'm saying? Like, what's how? Like, dude, that's what I'm saying. This is my first cop. You've been in 6, so I don't know. I'm just confused. Like, so anyway.
So you're probably not alone in being confused, and I guess that was sort of the root of my question. Like, how do we, you know, engage other young people who are not who have got other things that they're concerned about? You know, as I said, it might be their livelihoods, both in developing and developed countries. You know, there are many young people, you know, in this country who are working, you know, jobs and working very hard. So for them, the focus is on paying the rent, you know, getting the food and so on. So, you know, how are we going to bring that group of people to care about, you know, what's going on here and not be confused, because it is a confusing process to some extent.
Yeah, I remember my first COP. I was only 18 at that time, and I walked into the venue. I saw a lot of people with suits running all over. I mean, and huge signs, just as he mentioned. So I had a bench right after the entrance. So I spent 3 days in that bench. Every day I go home, I come back, I sit on the bench just watching people coming, going. And on the 3rd day I said, that's enough, now it's time to go in. And I was like walking 1 meter inside of the venue every day until I managed to actually go inside of the venue. So the first club is always confusing, don't worry. It's always like this. But then you get used to the system and things continue. But coming back to your question, I think everyone must care about climate change because it will impact everyone sooner or later. And if we are talking about livelihoods, everyone's livelihood will be impacted, as just you mentioned, developed and developing. If we are talking about life sustainability, and in the sustainability, I'm not talking about green, but I'm talking about having a life in the first place, it's also going to be impacted. We all remember what happened in Canada. It was 49. I'm sure the life stopped there when it was 49. I mean, because they're not used to that. I remember in many places in the world where they have tsunami. Of course, the world stopped and they're just tsunami. And again, I would like to bring the COVID perspective. I mean, everything was totally closed for a few months until the people realized that this is not going to end soon and we have to go and continue our work. And the difference is with COVID, you were safe inside of your house, for example, but with climate change, you will not be safe anywhere. There is no vaccination for climate change and there is no medicine for that. So everyone must care about climate change. How to take actions to tackle climate change, this is of course different, and it depends on the person's capacity. And this takes us also to climate activism itself. A lot of young people spend their time in climate activism and they forgot that they have lives. So it becomes unsustainable because they start working on climate change today, they spend a year or two, and then the moment they get a full-time job, they just drop and stop working on climate change. And so making this more sustainable by actually, I always say, happy, whose his job is his hobby. So making our hobby as doing climate change activism and then change it into our job so we can be happy. It's a very important part. I did not succeed doing this yet, but I am the way. Yes. So it's very important to have both sustainability for your own person and also doing climate change because it's a moral obligation for all of us.
Yeah, so that's what you're saying about the...
And see, like, I am confused with COP to some degree in the COP question, but I am not confused in what people can do. And so I want to make it clear, I've been saying change comes from passion. I think that goals are a great framework. You know, if you care about Black Lives Matter, all lives matter, if you care about, I really care about women's rights, you can look at these goals, kind of like, think of your passion once you know your why. right? And then you can take an action. Now, what that action could be plugging into your local community, doing the volunteer stuff, getting involved with this nonprofit, putting your dollar certain places, doing this, doing that. There's a million things you can do. I talked to so many people. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna stop. Some high schools were like, yeah, bro, I'm gonna stop going. I'm not gonna go to prom this year in my own car. We're all gonna carpool. It's like, okay, great, bro. Do a TikTok because you got 50. Right? There's a million things you can do once you start chopping it down, right? Oh, there are people out there walking, holding a sign, right? And different people have different capacity, like you said. I was talking to Jimmy Styles and I did a podcast and a panel, and she's super dope. And she's plugging into Project 17. She's Harry Styles' sister. Now, her capacity to be an outlet, to take an action, it might be a little bit larger. He's the follower. There's a lot she can do. And she takes that as a lot of responsibility. Like, dang, what do I do with all these followers, right? So capacity is different, but I think it's the same process.
Yeah, interesting. And we haven't got much time, but I just wanted to pick up on, I think you mentioned a couple of celebrities in there. I just want to ask, the power of celebrity, how important messengers are they for young people? Or now we have, sort of some criticism of them not walking the talk. What are the sort of best messengers that can be used to kind of reach out to young people?
Can I answer a little bit of this? Because I just did this dope panel yesterday, right? And so you guys don't know a lot about me. I'm doing this thing called Project 17. That's why I keep wearing 17, right? And I'm doing one song for each goal, right? But each song with a major artist, right? So before I came to COP, I spent like 2 days on Billie Eilish's guest list, been working with her team for a year, blessed to have me around, learning so many things. Already gotten like the head and the heart on goal 17, right? Trying to get Paul McCartney and Miley Cyrus on it by the end of the year, right? So I've been performing goal 17 all stuff, right? So and somebody had asked a question like that, or something about Taylor Swift or something, the way Taylor was traveling or something. And I remember I said, look at Taylor Swift, right? If anyone notices something, she put her first album out another time, right? So now if you go on Spotify, you listen to the Taylor Swift song that you said no, or this other version that she makes the majority of her money from when you stream that. Well, she's adamant about this. Google it, right? So, some people can massacre, someone who, maybe they don't know enough of what their capacity is or what they're able to do. So when you look at great people like Coldplay, people taking steps, but not everything is the system, the structure. It's almost like what do they say, systemic, like the structure of the music business, of a business that is fossil fuels, like the studios, everything is ran off like a system that needs to be reconstructed. I would love to know your thoughts on, because you know a lot about structures in different places, but a lot of things are systematic, so it makes it harder.
Yeah, and maybe then sometimes maybe we shouldn't be sort of so judgmental of people, and that people are, trying to do the right thing.
But the issue is humans made the system to make their lives easier. So if the system doesn't work for us, why are we becoming rigid as the system is rigid? I mean, the system did not fall from the sky. We made it. We can make another system that works for us.
Yeah.
I don't have to choose between listening to music and being green. I mean, I don't have to choose between going from one place to another place to do like such an event, or just be good to my manners and to my obligations. I mean, having this idea of the system is unchangeable is really what's heading us back. The system is changeable because we made the system in the first place. We can change it, we can fix it, we can make a whole new system that works for us, work for the planet, work for the biodiversity. Because a lot of the discussions that we are having right now is human-centric, which is not true. We are not alone in this world. We have life in the seas, we have life in the land, we have the vegetation cover. There's a lot of creatures in this world that we don't care about. We're just talking about ourselves. And this is the same selfishness that we started ruining the planet with, and we are continuing doing it. So if the system doesn't work for us, for the future generation at least, we should change it now. Otherwise, we will really be blamed in the future, and we will really regret it.
Yeah, no, thank you. I think Einstein, said something sort of similar, like if you want to change the world, you have to change your thinking.
He said it's stupid to do the same thing the same way and expect a different result.
Yeah, isn't that the first sign of madness or something? Yeah.
Exactly.
So can I just, we're pretty much out of time, but can I just ask perhaps each one of you just to, your future selves. So, yourselves in 2030, what is the message that you would be wanting to say to the next generation of young people?
Yeah, I can start and then pass it. Yeah. Well, I hope actually in 2030 we will be in a more equilibrium world where words, actions, but also nature and development have the same seat. Because now, unfortunately, we're in a position it's either development, because all of the development structure we have is fossil fuel based, or future, because the future is net zero, as you mentioned. And we are also now, we are either talking or doing actions. We cannot do both. And I don't understand why, but I really hope by 2030 we reach this amount. I have a small note on the celebrity part. Sorry for speaking long, but we noticed as the Youth Advisory Group, we are 7, that young people, especially the climate change interested people, gathers together in one point and they leave others away. I shared a panel with Bonnie, who was Ginny in Harry Potter. I didn't know her. We met Maisie 2 days ago in the BBC, where they were launching David Attenborough's one of the new episodes. We didn't know her, and working in silos is really impacting the case, because we have to reach bigger audience. We have to reach everyone, because everyone will be impacted by climate change. So I think they will be our messengers to the bigger followers, saying that this is happening and we need to take actions through that. Thank you.
Thanks. AY?
Yeah.
Final thoughts?
I think for 1 second.
Sure. Yeah, I would say dream big. Don't be afraid to dream big, and ensure that you turn that dream into a reality. And and that's something that we've seen in our work, and something I've seen personally, because when I was 9, I had taken part in this walk for water, and I grew up in Dubai, and they had organized this in order to bring attention to what was going on in different parts of the world. And I was so saddened by that I told my mom that I'm going to provide clean water to communities one day. And that's exactly what we did during the pandemic, by building deep bore tube wells for these communities to provide clean arsenic-free water. So I think that I give that example because I think turning our dreams and our aspirations into a reality is possible. And I think it's really important for us to understand that and keep working towards that, and no matter what, because at the end of the day, we're working for humanity and the planet, and it is literally our future is in our hands. That's actually the tagline of Green Hope Foundation. And it's just really important to remember that. So daring to dream and then turning that dream into a reality.
Thank you.
Nice. Yeah, I think I got it now. Okay, so for years, corporations hire people to come in and make it work better. They'd be like, how do we cut this out and make more money? How do we scale 10x return? Like, they hire these dudes, or women, to come in and shave off costs and scale for years, right? And now we're entering this weird time where that dude might need to get fired. Right? Because they might hire a new person to be like, well, how do we make sure that the food that we produce actually is produced sustainably? How do we make sure that the food that they're eating from our product actually helps their body? These are different questions. This is why I think we're fighting, so much stuff, because it's a total shift, right? So, you're talking about 2030, that's a while away. I hope that the guy that used to get paid to just figure out how to scale and do it faster, there's not a lot of those anymore. And then I think we might be somewhere.
Yeah. Great. Well, thank you. We're out of time now, but I just want to say a huge thanks to the panel for their contributions. And I think perhaps we can leave the sort of message from the panel is, dream big, and make your dreams, make your aspirations a reality. which I think actually, you guys have been doing in your daily lives and the inspiring work that you're doing. So thanks a lot.
Thank
Cheers.
you very much.
Thanks. Bye.
Yes,